1 instead of like 54. Also, you'll notice on these worksheets, I tell you the old question it refers to. So I think like question 1 is the first question we did, but it also tells you that it was question 54 in an former line, the old worksheets. And these are the worksheets that we're going to continue on today. You've answered a lot of these worksheets already, so I think like the first 2 or 3 pages we have already answered. And also, because I did a weird way of numbering notes where like section A, the section B through D, and section C, not A, but F and G maybe, and so on. To make sure we all know the notes that I put on the board, I have a link, and these 2 links are also at that supply and demand chapter, where I scanned all the notes I've used thus far, and you can download as a PDF and see all the sections of notes that I've given. Remember, exam 2 is going to be Monday. If you plan to take this at the testing center, at the assessment office and testing center, I need that letter from the assessment office. It usually comes on an orange sheet of paper, and it's where I fill in when you're going to take it, whether you have a cheat sheet, whether you can do a calculator, and the address, your test should be returned to me, and then I take that orange sheet with a copy of the exam and I bring it to the assessment center. So make sure you just ask the testing office, they know exactly what you're supposed to give to me. So make sure you do that. In labs this week, all of this week's going to be working on supply and demand, making things more clear, seeing it deeper, especially getting more practice. And the labs, they're going to be, I call them a required lab, just like classes required. You don't actually have to show up, but I am going to take attendance. And what we're going to do is we're going to really practice supply and demand, shifting curves, seeing where the price goes up, down, that kind of thing. Give you an idea of why this is important. I want to introduce you to a former student. This is Lindsay Kuzma. She double majored in animal science and agriculture economics, I want to say 6 or 7 years ago. And she now works at Koch Industries. And I went to Koch Industries a few years ago to visit, see what our interns are doing there. A lot of our graduates work at Koch Industries, so I went there to see the kind of things they're doing, to know the kind of things I needed to teach in class. And Lindsay, it turns out, works with byproducts from oil refinery process. So you refine oil, you get these byproducts, there's a market for it. You do a lot of things with it. And she is like a market analysis for this thing. And every single week she has to attend, and this is the literal title of the meeting, a supply and demand meeting. She attends a supply and demand meeting, talk about supply and demand for these petroleum byproducts, where every week she comes in with a new graph of how prices have behaved, how the quantity of all that byproduct's been sold, how it behaves, and then try to look at that and try to understand the market better. See how the supply and demand curves are shifting, to see where prices is going, to help them speculate a little, to help them figure out where they should be investing money, and all kind of profit opportunities. So supply and demand, a lot of employers want you to understand prices, where they come from, why they move, to be able to interpret them, and to be able to look out into the future and see what it might do. And Lindsay's a very good example of that.
In this packet, some of the pages may be missing. If we're going through it and you're missing a page, let us know. We'll get you a new one.
Yeah, the copier, it didn't staple some of them well. And the pages are numbered. If you look at the bottom of the pages, it should go 1 through 9. 1 through 9. If you don't have pages 1 through 9, raise your hand, and the TA will come give you a better copy.
guys have any big assignments due in design?
Do it.
You have any big assignments due in design?
Just the one where I was working.
What's
We,
that?
6970 project.
Is that the
in Salt
group
Lake City.
project?
And he's just kind of breaking it down. Like today we
Raise your hands
do
again.
infographics, stuff like that. And keep trying to come up with ideas.
I'm going to start on page 3, questions 6 and 7. Page 3, questions 6 through 7. Well, in another class, we've already answered number 6, and you can see there on the old worksheets that you printed out, that was number 13 that you did. And we showed that this was a demand for cage-free eggs, and we showed that then the demand curve goes from D to D prime. When it goes up, that meant consumers value cage-free eggs more, and so we selected the answer A. We already said the answer to number 6 was A. And we've done questions 1 through 5 already as well. What we're concentrating today on is trying to really understand those supply and demand curves and why they shift. It's really, this is the kind of thing that's really easy once you get it, but you do need a little practice at it. I'm on to number 7 now. If you've ever been to animal welfare is a topic that I research. If you ever go to a hog farm, at least a modern hog farm, you'll see that the sows are kept in these gestation stalls. They're on top of concrete, and they're so tight they can't even move around. And most people in that grocery stores, they're just thinking about pricing. They're not thinking about the animal very much, and so they don't really care. But if you actually stop those people and show them how the animals are raised and ask them about it, then what you find is they really, really don't like that. They think it's very cruel to the hogs. Now, I do surveys of consumers, and when you ask people, you show them pictures of gestation stalls, and you say, what do you think of this? They say, it's humane. I don't want to buy pork from this. That's what they tell you. But then once they go to the grocery store, most of them are going to buy it anyway. But some of them don't. And there has been a movement lately. These gestation stalls have been banned in a number of states, and there's a movement to ban them in more and more. And the pork industry is increasingly concerned about gestation stalls because it's giving them a bad image. And I'm sure they're doing like the egg industry has already done, and that they're thinking of partially surrendering to the animal organizations to kind of make their image a little better. I don't know whether they will or not. But this is the kind of thing. These are consumers buying pork. And if some of them, not all of them, and it can only be a few of them, it can only be 3 to 10%. If some of them think that raising hogs like that, where a sow can't even turn around or have a comfortable place to lay, if they think that's inhumane, then that's probably going to have an impact on pork demand. And what this question does, it says, suppose that as consumers acquire more information, blah, 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 consumers decrease their demand for pork, believing it to be inhumane. So when we say decrease in demand, we mean 2 things. One, if at the same price, people want less, they don't want it as much. And if you're just talking about overall value of the product, they value it less. And then what it wants you to do is draw a new demand curve in the diagram below showing that this decrease in demand by consumers is decreasing value. Quantity is on the x-axis, and it always will be. Price is on the y-axis. And then we have a demand curve. Remember, we also learned, and I'd like you to write this in there, that the demand curve is also a marginal value curve. Marginal value being the value of the last unit consumed. That's a little unclear right now, but it'll be more clear later. So basically what happens is some people buy I'm from South Carolina, and barbecue is pork barbecue. There's no such thing as beef barbecue in South Carolina or any of the southern states. And pork barbecue is a huge thing. We value it greatly. There is no more important meat than pork in South Carolina. And we would pay very, very, very high price for it. And we're up here. We will, if there hasn't been much pork out there to be sold, we will be the first ones there to buy it. We will buy it before you do, just like you will be buying beef before I do. South Carolinians value beef really high. But if price is low, you'll start consuming, pork. Well, not pork. South Carolinians value pork very high. So we're up here. As price goes down, other people who value pork less will also start consuming pork. So you're somewhere down here. Once the price gets low enough, you will start consuming pork as well. So marginal value, the first units out there, people like me are buying it. We place a very high value on it. But the more pork that is consumed, it goes to people who value it less and less. So this thing, price, remember we're talking about dollars here, value. And if you want to know how a demand curve shifts, you can just do this very shortcut. Just remember that this is dollars up here. And when you think of value, you probably think of dollars. So if value goes up, we're going higher on the dollars. If value goes down, we go low on the dollars. So in this case, where we're talking about consumers valuing something less, we're going to a lower value. The demand curve is going to shift down like this. And I'm going to draw 3 different demand curves. All of them would be correct answers to this question. It could be a parallel shift like this. Value goes down. I could keep the intercept the same and just make the slope steeper. That would be correct. And even all 3 would be correct. All 3 for any quantity is a lower value, means people value pork less. At any price, people will buy less on the beef product than they would on the original. That's just a decrease in demand. And of course, we saw if there was advertising of bacon, what happens to demand? Advertising, people value it more, it's more higher on the dollars, and the demand curve goes up. So that's number 7. All needs to be done. Now we're going to number 8. Now we're talking about bread, but 2 different varieties of bread. I'm drawing the demand curve for both of them. Curve you already have there. And here, reflecting something that we've seen lately in the grocery store. If you ever wonder if food companies want to make you happy, want to respond to your needs, just look how quickly they responded to your change in desire for products with high fiber in it. There was one day when Dr. Oz went on the Oprah show, not that I would watch it. When Dr. Oz went on the Oprah show, and Oprah asked him if there's one thing you could tell Americans that they should change about the diet, what would it be? And he didn't even hesitate. He said, more fiber. Americans should be more fiber. People listen to Oprah, so people listen to Oz. And there was a big demand for high fiber things. And now you go to the store, and everything is claiming to have high fiber. There was even a furniture store that claimed to have high fiber mattresses in town. You know, they did it as a joke. That's just an example of how big this thing came. All of a sudden, food companies are just dumping fiber into everything. They're responding to changes in demand. And what this question wants to know, it tells you that this new information, so now consumers are changing their value for products based on new information. And Dr. Oz is telling us we should eat less white bread, where a lot of the fiber has been removed, and more of the whole wheat bread, which retains a lot of the fiber. And so based on this new information, all this question wants you to do is go in here and show how the demand curves change. And if you just remember the little shortcut to answering this is easy. You come over here, and it says people want to consume less white bread, they value it less, so you take the demand and you shift it down to reflect a lower value. So you can just do this. And that's an answer. That's a decrease in the demand for white bread. People consuming less of the white bread, but now they want to come over here and consume more of the whole wheat bread. So they value it more. Dollars on the y-axis, that just means we shift the demand curve up. And that's it. It's really pretty easy. Next, number 9 and 10 wants us to take these pictures and talk about what will happen to the price of white bread and whole wheat bread. And I think it's best, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to draw a supply curve into both graphs. You might want to put kind of to the side that we draw supply to answer number 9 and 10. It's not part of the answer to number 8. We've already answered number 8, just shifting those two demand curves. I'm just going to add a supply curve in to help us answer number 9 and 10. It doesn't really matter how you draw them. And number 9 and 10 wants to know how the price and quantity changes. Well, here's what happens in a market. You always, when there's a curve shift, you go from an old equilibrium to a new equilibrium. And here's how I like drawing these in the graph so it doesn't get too cluttered. I know the old demand is at the old supply and demand, and the new equilibrium is at the new supply and demand. Supply curve hasn't changed, but we're going from this equilibrium to that equilibrium. And when we do that, when we go from here to here, you see the price is going down and quantities going down. And when we go from this equilibrium to that equilibrium, we move it further down according to the vertical axis and to the left according to the horizontal axis. And so this tells us that you might just write to the side of the graph, price falls, quantity falls. You probably knew that intuitively. That if people want white bread less, the price is going to fall and people consume less. Then for the whole wheat bread, we start at the old equilibrium, at the old supply and demand. Then we go to the new equilibrium, the new supply and demand. So we're going old to the new. And when we do that, going from here to here, we go up on the vertical axis, so price is rising. And we're going right on the horizontal axis. Quantity is increasing. Price rises, quantity rises. Again, something you knew. People now value this thing more. They're going to bid up the price and they're going to consume more of it. And now we know the answer to number 9. Number 9 says, based on question 8, after this new information, the health information, the equilibrium price of white bread should fall, and the equilibrium price of whole wheat bread should rise. Number 9, fall, rise. And then for number 10, based on question 8, after this new information, the equilibrium quantity of white bread should fall, and the equilibrium quantity of whole wheat bread should rise. So number 10, fall, rise. For number 11, we're switching gears for a minute and going to look back at the supply curve. And we're going to think about how it shifts. And number 11 says, suppose that supply curve for pork goes by the formula if P equals 1. is I go in, and because sometimes the zeros run together, I count the zeros. And I write on top 5 and make sure I put it right in the calculator. All it wants us to do is to graph the supply curve. And what I'm going to just do up here is show you, when I want to plot it, 3 points I use, those points I got, and then you can connect the dots. What I did was to the right of my graph, I made a small little table where I had quantity and I had price. And what I did is I said, I'm going to pick 2 or 3 points for quantity. I just arbitrarily choose 3 points on the x-axis. And I chose 0, and then I chose 8 million, and then I chose 16 million. Then I took each quantity and I plugged it into the cube and it gave me a price. I wrote down what that price was. I plotted the points and I traced the supply curve. And the numbers I got were this. Of course, Q is 0, price is 100, the intercept is 100. When Q is 8 million, price is 164. And when Q is 16 million, the price is 220. You'll see why it's important that you understand, and I know this is very simple, but I have to make sure you understand for these curves, what's the intercept, what's the slope. So number 12 says the intercept of the supply curve is, and the intercept is 100, and the slope is the 0.0000008. Number 14. Suppose the price of corn fell. Remember what we're talking about, this good is the pork. We're producing pork market, retail pork. It says the price of corn fell, decreasing the cost of feeding hogs. What would happen to the supply curve of corn? And wants you to say how it would shift by saying what may happen to the intercept and to the slope. And what I would do, I'm going to draw a graph and write something real quick, and I would just write that under number 14. So I'm going to write everything I'm going to write. You can see how much I'm putting up there, and you can put it under number 14. I'm just drawing the supply curve. Comma, MC. I'm reminding myself that the supply curve is also a marginal cost curve. Supply curve meaning what? It simply means this. What is the cost of producing that 8 million unit? It costs about $164. All costs involved from the corn farmer who grows the corn for the hogs to eat, and the hog farmer raising the hogs and selling all of the grocery store. Everybody involved, the cost of producing that 8 millionth unit was a 164. The cost of producing a little less, the units that came before it, it was a little less than 164. And that first unit produced cost just a little more than 100. The more you produce, the higher it costs you to produce it. And so when it comes to the 16th million unit, the cost of producing that 16th million unit is 228. If you don't want, I'm talking about, just delete what I'm about to say from your memory. If this sounds wrong, if you're thinking, didn't we do economies of scale, where as you produce more and more, the cost goes down and down? Yes, but economies of scale, that can happen in the long run. What we're talking about here is something happening in the short run, like producing more pork just this year, not expanding pork production over the next 5 years. it's the case that this is a marginal cost function, which once again means that when we have price up there, we're talking about dollars, it's really easy to think about how a supply curve shifts when costs rise and fall. You just think, costs going up, these are dollars, this curve goes up. Exactly. Costs going down, these are dollars, this curve goes down. That's all it is. It's that easy. So it's saying here it costs less to feed hogs because the price of corn fell. That means the cost of producing pork falls. Which means this curve goes down a little. Now it could go down a number of different ways. I'm going to draw 3 different ways that supply curve could drop down vertically. I could keep the intercept the same, have a smaller slope. I could have a parallel shift down. I could decrease the intercept and decrease the slope. All 3 of those are separate. And so now we're answering number 14. It's asking, what would happen to supply curve to pork? Circle all answers that are appropriate responses. There's going to be more than one answer here. A, the intercept of the supply curve could decrease. Does that sound right? Yeah. So A is an appropriate answer. B, the slope of the supply curve could decrease. Yay or no? Muscle man says yay. So B is right. You should just come to class without even wearing a shirt like that. I would be impressed then.
Yeah.
I would be very impressed. Raise your hand if you think C, the intercept of the supply curve could increase. I agree. That's not a good answer. D, the slope of the supply curve could increase. Not a good answer. E, both the intercept and the slope of the marginal cost curve could decrease.
Yes.
Yes. You do circle E. E is right. E's a little bit tricky because it didn't say supply curve, it said marginal cost curve. Same thing, that's right. And F is not right. So the right answers are A, B, and E, and only those 3.
What was that answer to number 12? The intercept on the supply curve?
For number 12, the intercept of the supply curve is 100, and the slope is 0.000008. And 16 are just a little more complicated. It's trying to make sure we understand exactly what kind of cost we're talking about. So when we say cost, marginal cost, when you think of cost, you're usually thinking of accounting costs. The number of dollar bills actually given up by people to produce something. But economists care about that and opportunity costs. And number 15 is trying to make sure we understand exactly what that means. It says this. It says, below is a supply curve for cotton. And it gives you this graph. It says, assume that land can be used to grow cotton, soybeans, or corn, and that farmers tend to plant whatever is most profitable. Suppose that the price of soybeans declines. For many farmers, soybeans were the next most valuable crop. So this event decreases the opportunity cost of raising cotton. And the graph below depicts how this event would alter the shape of the cotton supply function. A lot of these questions, it just tells you what the answer is. It's really pretty simple. It says in there, this event decreases the opportunity cost of raising cotton. And we say it's a marginal cost, the supply curve is. That marginal cost is an opportunity cost. So we really, you just come in here, you drop the supply curve down. What's important here, the farmer, the actual number of dollars she may be paying to raise the cotton may not change at all. The number of dollars she may take home may not change at all after this. But what did change is cotton is now even more preferred to her. It's even much better than her next best alternative. And so she's probably going to be more likely to raise cotton. It's more desirable to her. The cost of producing it is less. So we don't just think about the number of dollar bills that's spent. We also think about the opportunity cost, what we could have earned in our next best alternative. That is the answer to number 15. Let's drop the supply curve down. Read number 16. Still a supply curve for cotton. It says that the price of cotton increases. Raise your hand if you think we should shift the supply curve up. Raise your hand if we think we should shift it down. Raise your hand if you think we should leave it just the way it is. The last one's actually the answer. I know that's a little tricky. But look, we've already got a curve here. If price goes up, we just move from one point on the curve to another.
What would make it go up? What would make you move the curve up?
An increase in the cost of production. Anything that increases the cost of cotton would raise it. Increase in fertilizer costs.
Anything that's associated with it?
So when price goes up, we're just moving along the curve. The curve tells us what happens when the price changes. So what makes sense for the curve to change with price. And of course, the same would go for demand. If we have a demand curve, and I say price goes good, rises or falls, the demand curve doesn't shift. We just move along the curve. '17 is showing you a different way we have of asking these questions, how they might look on a multiple choice question. This again showing you going from one supply curve to a supply curve underneath it. 17 above is a diagram showing an old supply curve and a new supply curve, S prime, for corn ethanol. Which of the following statements accurately describes this change? The opportunity cost of producing corn ethanol follows. That sound right? We went from here, drop down vertically, so it's like less dollars, so it costs less. A is the answer. Answer number 17 is A. C and D, where it says the marginal value, that doesn't have anything to do with supply. That would be the demand for corn ethanol. You can rule those out automatically. For number 18, the answer is C. All that happened was the intercept of the supply curve fell. The slope didn't change. It's just a parallel difference. 17, the answer is A. 18, the answer is C. Is there any question that you missed the answer for you want me to repeat? Okay, thank you for helping Chris today. I'll see you on Wednesday.